Are you ready to unlock your true potential of your business? In our latest episode of Success in Mind, I got to sit down with Joseph Choi, franchise owner of Shelf Genie. He highlights the importance of trusting your gut and building a strong team and dropping your ego to ask for help. With expert insights on marketing, personal development, and finding purpose, this episode is a must listen for anyone seeking success in business. And if you are looking for how do you get to that mid six-figure range and beyond, how do you build a seven-figure business, Joseph shares with us the mindset and the strategies needed to take you there. Joseph grew up in Toronto and has made Vancouver his home for the past 18 years. After a long time in the investment and banking field, he made it a goal to change his career before turning 40, which he did at 38. Since then, he bought all the Shelf Genie franchise locations in the Lower Mainland and soon was given the moniker of the Cabinet Whisperer, winning both the Rookie Franchisee of the Year and Franchise of the Year in his first 2 years of business. To jump right into learning more about you. So can you just tell us a bit about who you are and a bit about your business?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all, Terry. My name is Joseph Choi, and I am the owner of Shelf Genie here in Vancouver. And starting next month, we're actually going to be also opening it up in the Okanagan. So I'm quite excited about that.
Amazing.
I guess my story really started with my daughter. I was in the corporate world for 18 years, and I got to the point where I just didn't feel like it was my jam. Just look around the office walls and I go, is this really me at the end of the day? And I really lost interest in the investment industry, not because of I wasn't good at it. It was just one of those nagging feelings that, I got more purpose than what I'm doing right now. And the other reason was my daughter. One of my goals was, because I've only had one child, I want to kind of spend time with her as much as I could. And so one of my goals was to actually be on all her field trips growing up. And she was 3 at the time. And so I met a franchise broker, and he kind of took me down this road of understanding, who I am as well, what I want to do. Do I want a brick and mortar, or do I want to, work from home? All those kind of questions. And based on an algorithm, it kind of spat out like 5 franchises that might be suitable for me.
Whoa.
And the funny thing was that he said, I got this dark horse for you. It just started like about 5 years ago, and it's called Shelf Genie. I went, okay, let's hear about this. And then they get you to do your due diligence with all these different companies, and they want to make sure that you talk to all of them. You're not just kind of like dead set on one of them. But in my stomach, I went, okay, this one sounds really interesting. It's not just a digital marketing company. And so I kind of dug around and I went, oh, this is really interesting. I've never even heard of this before. Like the possibility of doing pull-out shelves inside people's homes sounded really interesting. So we kind of, went down these different rabbit holes. And then eventually I traveled to the different head offices. And, once you meet these people, it's not like, it's something that's not real anymore. It's literally an office. You literally go into this lobby. It's a full-on kitchen with all these pullouts and everything. And I went, oh, like I didn't get a chance to meet the CEO yet. I'm just like playing around. And then once you meet the people behind the scenes, their executive and whatnot, it felt like a really good fit.
Nice.
And so, I wanted to kind of merge, my time with work, but also merge my time with my daughter, because, I'm a believer of, life is too short. And, I was leaving home at 6 a.m. and getting home at 6 p.m. And I went, this is not the way to do it. I just didn't feel right. It didn't matter how much money was being thrown at me at the time. So anyways, I just kind of embarked on this franchise where it didn't really exist in Vancouver whatsoever. And so I went to get trained and just started being a student of the business. Asked me if I've held a hammer before. Yes, I have. Asked me if I've ever sold a pull-out shelf. No, I haven't. But like what was really interesting, what caught my attention when I signed the contract, was that I attended their conference before I was even trained, and they had this guest speaker. Her name was Lisa McLeod, and she wrote a book called Selling with a Noble Purpose.
Oh,
And if you haven't had a chance to read it, it's amazing. And it's all about the belief system. And what she did was, in her 25 years of research, um, she did a study on like who are the best salespeople in the world, and what really draws them in to being really successful. And
yeah.
her conclusion was that she found the successful people were the ones who had a really strong belief system. It wasn't your
Mhm.
typical car salesperson. It's actually people who really cared about the people that they served, meaning that you serve
Right.
with a servant's heart, right? And, we've heard that
Yeah.
before, but it really hit home for me because it meant, man, I care about people. I love,
Mhm.
I love making people happy. I love helping people. And even the people around me, when I was asking about this business, they go, yeah, I think this is like something that you can do because I want an impact for clients. And I want the client to kind of come back to me years from now and tell me what great work, I've done. And it could be anybody, right? I think that's
Yeah.
what we really want. It's not just about the dollar figure. And I think when you kind of put that higher purpose first, the dollars start to roll in.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, so that's kind of how it all started. And what was really interesting was the franchise said to me, "Hey, well, why don't you get a PR company since nobody's ever heard of
Yeah.
this in Canada?" And so I hired a PR company, and lo and behold, the Vancouver Sun picked up my story, and
Wow.
I told this guy Gord, who's the reporter there. I said, Gord, like, I don't want to talk about myself. Like, I mean, I said, I flipped through the Vancouver Sun, and in the business section, there's always this new business, and it's about the owners and all that stuff. And I said,
Mhm.
I don't think that's really good substance in terms of telling my story. I said, I'm going to wait until I can find a client that has the same belief systems I do as far as like what attracted me to this business. And so he met with one of my clients, and he saw the work that I did for them, and he just went like, "This is just crazy!
Wow.
Like how is this like possible?" Um, and so he wrote this 2-page article about my client on December 31st. It was actually launched on December 31st. And it was something to the
Okay.
lines of, cabinet whisperer, like something along those lines. He kind of coined me the cabinet whisperer,
Oh, that's
like right
cool.
off the get-go. And and then we started our trade show season, and this was like in 2014. So um, right when our trade show started, we had all these people with these clippings of that story, and they brought it
Mhm.
to our booth, and we read your story and what you did for Vince and Suzette, and they just went, oh my god, it was such, and I think you probably still find it on the Vancouver Sun online. But it was just so amazing just to see this traction. And so in that month of January, we booked like over 100 appointments, and this was
Wow.
like our fourth month in business, right?
That's incredible.
So these little things that you start to build upon, and so that was a real springboard for us as far as getting some type of attention. And so throughout our trade show season that we started off, we had a lot of people still remembering that story. And eventually, Vince, my client, he was the biggest skeptic of this business. He was the husband. And guess what happens? He's a former CEO. He's retired, and he goes, you know what? I want to work for you.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, I want to work for you. And so, he's an amazing guy. And so he started helping out at trade shows. He actually became one of my designers for a brief period. And he even
Wow.
held on to that newspaper. That was his thing, was that every trade show he did, he always had that newspaper with him because it was him on that in that picture with his wife.
Right.
And he was telling his story as well. And it was very magical when we first started off right off.
Yeah.
And so we actually became the first franchise to hit $1 million in revenue in our first 12 months
Wow.
of
That's
business.
amazing.
Yeah. And so it was really, I never even thought I would even hit that mark ever. My goal was
Mhm.
250,000, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so um, I think it has to do with, there's a culmination of things. I think part of it
Mhm.
is motivation, the hustle, just getting
Yeah.
out there. And I told my team as I was building it out, I said, part of our year one is that we're going to learn. We might have some growing pains, but after
Mhm.
that year one, we're going to celebrate regardless of what we've done. All right.
Nice.
But the main thing is that we're going to try to spread the gospel of this business because we are not a roofing company. We're not a window company. We are a
Ah,
company that is very niche, but we got to get out there. And so, I think the networking aspect helped a lot for me, in my opinion. I was,
yeah.
if you know BNI,
Oh, yeah.
right? I was a serial BNI guest. I wasn't a member. I was just a serial. I was just going everywhere, just like just showing up and just kind of just doing that 30-second elevator speech, and then just kind of going to the next thing. But I did end up joining a networking group, and I have to say that really helped me a lot because you never know unless you ask for help who people know. And I found that really
Right.
fascinating. So I've learned over the years to ask for help because I tend to be the person who just wants to learn and just do it and all that
Mhm.
stuff. And I think if there was any tip that I could give anyone would be no matter what you are, where you are in business, always be curious and always ask for help.
Oh, I love that.
And is like literally dropping the ego, right? Because that's what it
Mhm.
is sometimes when we're building a business. We get kind of
Yeah.
quiet because maybe the business isn't happening as quick as we want to. But sometimes we can't even think like that. We got to think about who's out there that can really help because
Mhm.
human design, by human design, we want to help. When someone is
Yes.
like drowning, right? You're going to react. I know that's really
Yep.
extreme, but if you do ask for help, people are out there that are willing to lend a hand. It's not like they're opening up their wallets and giving you money, but their advice is worth a lot.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Um, so whether it was like, looking for, trade show staff or looking for a design team and just building that out, all the way to even finding a trailer, to house our stuff for the trade shows, just all these little things. And so rather than having to reinvent the wheel with maybe something that was done already, usually
Mhm.
each week I would ask a question deliberately just to see, just to field the group, just to say, hey, like I need some help, guys. This is what I have this month or this week,
Nice.
and that way you just kind of chip away at these little
Yeah.
things. um, and don't mind if I'm just kind of rambling along the way, but I
Oh,
get
no, no.
excited as I'm kind of
Great.
thinking about my past here. um,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing this guest speaker, and I took something away. Every guest speaker I take something away, so this guest speaker talked about the one thing. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that
Yep.
before, right? So again, the one thing is like whether it's the one thing for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year. You kind of like, and though that's it's kind of like a to-do list, but a really refined to-do list. So there was one month I said, you know what, guys, I really need this. My goal this month is to hire a designer, not just any designer to fill a warm seat. I'm looking
Right.
for very specific person, like an all-star that I can make, either I can make into all-star or they have the proficiency and belief like I do to become awesome. So,
Nice.
and so whoever I bring on board, I said, my job here is not only for you to just do this kind of work. I said, my job is to make you awesome. So the
Oh,
first
great.
thing I did was to actually I was the first designer in my business. So I could actually go and lead from the front. And then because
Nice.
all my designers can see my results just as much as I can see their results. So, the frying pan's kind of getting hot here, right? And I'm going, okay, well, I gotta, I gotta like step it up here. So in my first month in business, my goal was to be an awesome designer. And so guess what I did?
Mm.
I looked at all the results in our system, like who in North America are like the top dogs as far as being a designer. And what I did was
Nice.
I just kind of called them up and just started getting these golden nuggets of wisdom just being thrown at me. Because I don't want to be them, but I think
Mhm.
that some of the stuff they can impart on me can probably
Yeah.
culminate into something really good. So in my first month of business, we were just rocking. Like I was just my own designer. That's it. And then the second month, I brought in somebody else. And then, the next couple of months brought in somebody else. And I feel that when you ask the question of like, how do you get past a certain threshold as far as, either
Mhm.
revenue or income? In my world, anyways, I think that you do have to build out a team.
Yeah.
Like you can't
Yeah.
do everything. Like I just know that I would have been burnt out without the support of my team. And it's not just
Mhm.
anybody, again, it's just people with the right mindset that works with you to kind of toe the rope and share that same belief system. And I think
Yes.
and when you impart those kind of philosophies with your staff, and maybe they never even heard of the stuff that I'm talking about, but when they start seeing it and they start believing it and they start seeing you in action, you're not just sitting on an ivory tower, but you're in the weeds with them.
Yeah,
When you start the business, especially, it builds that belief system that is hard to um, it's hard to take that away anymore because they've seen you in action. They want to be just as awesome.
absolutely. And I think that's such an important piece of it, because so many starting out business owners that I see, or the solopreneurs, is that they think that they have to do it alone.
Right.
And I love that what you were saying is that you can't do it alone. You're not going to get there on your own. You need a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like unless you're in a specialized field, of course. I mean, you probably, could if you're a lawyer maybe or one of those things.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you're a solopreneur, I think, yeah, having the people do again, you're not in your job, you're not you're not in the business, you're running your business. That's always in the back of my mind, right?
yeah,
Even my first year, I was like, like eventually, yeah, I might sell this business. So I want to make sure it's set up so that whoever buys it, it's pretty turnkey. When they
mhm,
take it over, there's a team in place, like all those kind of things. And I find that there's a lot of businesses out there that don't think like that. They don't think about, hey, I'm creating
yeah,
value while I'm using my time to build this business. How do I go about making it so that it becomes something that could be sellable in the future?
definitely.
So it's not even just about the income necessarily, but like I don't have a pension or any of those
Hmm.
things, right? So I need to make sure that I have something that I can use as a pension one day.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you were starting out, did you have a sense that this was going to work, that it was going to be successful, or were you scared? What was going on in your
Oh,
mind at that time?
that is such a great question. So I just got goosebumps because I remember when I started heard about Shelf Genie, I was like, I asked a whole bunch of people. I went, this is a business, this is how it works. And I was quite shocked how many naysayers there were about like, I don't know. Like they were like, I don't know about this business, like if this will work and all those things.
Right.
But in my stomach, I went, I gotta trust my gut.
Hmm.
Like I really have to trust my gut because there's a lot of people just kind of going like, don't spend your life savings on this because you're buying your franchise and all that stuff. And it's true because some people, you hear stories about people dumping in money and it's their life savings and it doesn't happen the way it should or should have happened.
Right.
Um, but I really strongly felt about this business. And so I was scared. Yeah, I was scared to even sign the franchise document because like the disclosure agreement was like this thick. It was like, I don't know
Oh,
how many
wow.
pages I had to go through, but there was a lot of pages, all these things. And so, yeah, you're literally going into a field that you've never done before either. And that's what
Yeah.
shocked a lot of people because I used to wear a suit and all those things, right? Working downtown, all the way to a guy wearing a jeans and a shirt, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, are you like, what's going on? Like, do you need help?
Is this a midlife crisis? Is
Yeah, is this a
it?
midlife crisis? Like that's, and so, yeah, like but all I have to say, like one of my goals was to do something entirely different before I turned 40 was also in the
Yeah.
back of my mind. So I always want to have my own business. My first business was actually a college pro painting franchise
Oh, wow.
in university. Yeah. So I already had a taste of it. I didn't make much money off
Yeah.
of that. But that was my fault. But you learn from it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was scary to dive in. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are working their careers and whatnot that have this desire probably to take the
Hmm.
plunge. But I think, yeah, just trust your instincts first so that you do have this belief. If your belief is strong enough, I'd say go for it. Like especially if it's a franchise, I say go for it because there's probably a good chance that the revenue will come in sooner than later.
Yeah.
But as far as yeah, like as far as fear, doubts, uncertainty, those all come into play. I mean, that's just a natural human instinct. But if you can kind of not control it, but I think if you can harness that into something of more positive in nature and go, I believe in myself. I believe what this
Yeah.
is all about. I think it takes you further than being stuck in your own head and going, oh my God, did I make the wrong decision? Did I do this? Did I do that? Like you're just talking to yourself, right? And just really
Mhm.
psyching yourself out. So I try not to psych myself out. I just try to just show up every day and just again chip away at whatever I have to do to build this out. And then just kind of prioritizing the
Yeah.
things that are really important again for that week or for the day? Am I going to pick up the phone and call 5 people and make that a goal for the next month? And
Right.
that kind of rule. Um, and again, another guest speaker that I heard from, and he kept talking about this was, yeah, building habits and rituals. Just
Hmm.
kept talking about that, habits and rituals, and I went, yeah, like it's not even just about the
Yeah.
business. Like I talk about my own health, my well-being. What do
Yeah.
I do to kind of, maintain myself? And so, yeah, like like health-wise, yeah, I want to make sure that I exercise and I take
Hmm.
care of this. This is the most expensive thing that we'll ever own is our own body, right? Once that's gone, doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much money you make, you know, it's you're hooped, in my opinion.
Yep.
So you have to, like, would you trade it, if your life was on the line, would you trade all the money that you ever made so that your body is in great shape? Right. So
Hmm.
I do focus on that. Um, and then, yeah, like, and then, yeah, just trying to find the right people, whether I have that interview 100 people, I want to find that right person that, again, has that same belief system. And they're going to toe the rope
Yeah.
just as much as I'm towing the rope. And the cool
Hmm.
thing is, the first designer I hired had this belief system, had this fire in her. She actually became she became the designer of the year in
Oh,
Shelf Genie,
wow.
which has 60 locations in her first year,
Amazing.
which is really cool. And with her contribution and mine, we actually won the rookie franchisee of the year in our first year,
Wow.
first in Canada. In our second year, we actually won the franchisee of the year, first in Canada as well. And it was just like that
Amazing.
momentum, just building, building, building. But I think having a good check and balance with your team is important as well, because
Hmm.
sometimes we're kind of all siloed, right? And
Yep.
sometimes we need to have these conversations, even if it's through Zoom, or even a coffee, because not every day is going to be perfect. And so even
Right.
for our team, they may have a down day, and sometimes you just need to have a chat so that their mindset kind of reframes a little bit. And I think the mentorship is very important.
Hmm.
And I even tell my team, I said, if you're moving on one day, I want to still make you as awesome as possible. So wherever you land, you're
Yeah.
going to keep building that momentum in your life. As much as I want my people to stay with me as long as possible, the other fun part, I think, of owning a business is that you can really impact people
Yes.
having your that you have on your team. And so, like I said, I want them to be with me for the long term, but nowadays, not everyone will kind of stick around for that length of time. But funny enough, my 2 full-time installers are still with me since day one.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's incredible. And that speaks to the culture that you've created, right?
right.
That they want to stay and that they must feel fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, when you fine tune processes and systems and things just start to hum, and not everything
Mhm.
is perfect, of course, but when it does hum, it's like I'm passing the baton to you, you're taking it, you're running with it, you're providing great service.
Yeah,
And we want to hear those great reviews online and building that reputation.
absolutely.
So that's the other thing to segue to, and don't mind if I do that, but
Go
one of
for
my
it.
goals was to yeah, have as many reviews online as possible, because I knew even in 2014 our behaviors were changing in terms of how we did our due diligence with products and services.
Mhm.
And so I want to make sure that I gave my team the best chance possible to go into a home, and the fact that the client would have done their due diligence before they came in. And that way it's already kind of, half the battle's already won as far as building their trust. And it's not just kind of coming in cold and talking about who we are. They can Google us and they can see what people are saying about us, all those things. So I made sure that we were diligent in either getting clients to like us on Facebook or writing reviews.
Mhm.
Um, and so that way, again, yeah, it just builds a lot of trust and momentum, for future revenue.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Now, you'd mentioned habits and rituals. So,
yeah.
what are some of the habits and rituals that you've implemented for yourself that help you to keep performing at your best? Like, what's a day in the life of Joseph Choi? What does that look
Um,
like?
yeah, no, it's a good question. Like as an entrepreneur, you definitely wear so many hats, right? As
Yeah.
just like yourself, right? And um, each day is definitely different. But I have to say, my Google Calendar is like my second wife, so to speak. It does tell me what to do every day. I go through it, and I do have a to-do list. I try not to make it too long, but I do make sure that, again, there's certain things on, whether it's a weekly, a monthly basis, I do on a regular basis, whether it's having a team meeting, whether it is to call those 5 clients that I need to call, whether it is to call once a month a particular franchise who I've never spoken to before and just introduce myself and just network.
Nice.
There's all these little things that, again, it just becomes habitual, and therefore after a period of time, it's just becomes a part of you.
Hmm.
And I think that has helped a lot as far as, framing when you wake up. It's not like, hey, I'm waking up and I'm doing work right away. Yeah, I might be meditating. I'm doing lots of yoga right now. And so I might be doing
Nice.
something first. But then once my mind is clear, then yeah, I do get right into it as far as like, yeah, what do we have to do? And usually there's things that are reminders for me to get done first. And then, yeah, if my day ends at 12 o'clock, that's great because I've done a
Yeah.
lot of it. If I'm booked an appointment or I have to get out there to network, then especially in the early stages, that's exactly what I did was, drive to downtown Vancouver to the biggest BNI group. Yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of show up, so to speak. And I remember doing that quite often. Um, but eventually, yeah, it is about just being relentless. I think having a tenacity to say that I'm going to build this out. I'm going to build a strong brand. That is my goal. Build a
Yeah.
recognizable brand. And even to this day, like I need to kind of spread the word of who we are because not everybody knows who we are. So
Right.
I know I still have a lot of work to do. And so we just did an Italian Day festival on Commercial Drive just a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
And
great.
and the cool thing is actually like the people who kind of came by and, were some of our previous clients, or, they've heard of us, they've seen us on TV or commercials. And so I always kind of, when I'm talking to them, I say, oh, have you heard of us before? And that way it's kind of like a nice little gauge as far as like, if they haven't, all right, well, let's talk about what we do. And if they have, well, I think I'm doing my job.
Yep.
Yeah. So in a day of life of me, again, different hats, whether it is, you gotta check your marketing. Like for me anyways, we spend a lot of marketing. So as I mentioned, we do commercials
Mhm.
now. We do a lot of direct mail. I mean, you gotta like gauge your ROI on those things that you're spending. Cause I think over the years, what I've seen, even with Shelf Genie franchises and other franchises, I find that a lot of people are not as adept in marketing. And I find that that's a
Right.
very key piece. Um, and my phrase is always, and I'm always saying to the other franchises, I go, always ask the question, where are the eyeballs?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you follow the eyeballs, then your marketing should work. When I go to a coffee shop, do I see a lot of people reading the newspaper in 2023?
No.
Not so much. But in 2014, it was, and it was actually working for us. We advertised
Wow.
quite often in the Vancouver Sun. But at some point, we could just see the numbers and you have to pivot really quickly, or
Mhm.
else that money will dry up really quick, especially if you don't have as large of a buffer to pivot. People will close down really quickly.
Yeah.
So, marketing is quintessential in our world as far as
Mhm.
how whether you'll find success, and especially the way marketing has changed over the years, especially going online like we do now. um, I think you have to have some level of expertise to make those kind of business decisions, and where to, marketing, like I said, is a roulette table, and you want to put the chips hopefully in the right places that you're banking on
Yeah.
that'll work. But there's just so many options now that, I think depending on your occupation or your business, I think you need to be very good at knowing where to put your chips from a marketing point of view.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at, say, how to prioritize your time or how to prioritize what it is that you're investing your energy into as a
Mhm.
business, how do you gauge that and look at what you need to focus on?
Yeah. So I am a spreadsheet person. So I
Mhm.
have I kind of like do the lay of the land, and like, do I go radio? Do I go TV? Or and all those things? And like, what are the
Yeah.
chances of? And so I kind of like, yeah, I put all these different buckets in there, but I just try to choose like 4 or 5 marketing vehicles that I believe that will work. Like in my point of view, because I've done enough due diligence. And so I try not to spread the money out too thin, because I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think,
Yeah.
having the key areas of digital, some paper now, and yourself as also a marketing person to kind of get out there,
Mhm.
especially nowadays with the economy kind of being shaky, right?
Yeah,
I feel that you need to build out a stronger ground game and kind of getting out there and building relationships, right? So one of the
definitely.
things that we just did recently was, yeah, we're joining the Professional Organizers of Canada, and we're
Oh,
going to be
cool.
an associate member. We're going to go in and I know quite a few of them, which has been great over the years, and they're a great referral source. But kind of know who your tribe is as far as your referral tribe, if you want to call it that,
Mhm.
and have a and be very creative as far as how to create a win-win proposition. Maybe I kind of give back something for referring and vice versa,
Right.
and kind of building that funnel, and then looking at another part and another part. And another one I'm looking at is looking into the over 55 communities.
Oh,
Where are
yeah.
they? Where are they? Do I go in and grab a whole bunch of business cards to figure out who's the person that can open the door for me to do like a lunch and learn? I'm thinking about
Right.
those things, because again, if I think we've all developed some level of attention deficit, and so our mind is going to go from one thing to another, and you go,
Mhm.
hey, it's my turn, I want to show you who I am. Then
Yeah.
I want to be ready for that, and then having those processes and systems in place that when the time comes, you can go and present and show who you are, and obviously being very authentic, because I do want to help people live
Right.
in their homes longer. Like, that is my intent, and I want to have as much of our product in people's homes so that people will remember it and show it to their friends and family. So I don't care
Yeah.
about how big the job size is. I do care if we can put some of our stuff into people's homes. And again, I want it to help them every single day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what is it? I'm just really curious. What was it about Shelf Genie specifically that when you were presented with this, that this spoke to something deeper inside of you? What was that
Yeah.
thing?
I thought about my parents. It's funny you asked me. I
Yeah.
thought my parents, I went, man, my parents would, really like this. And I was thinking, man, like if they get older, maybe they don't have to move in with me. I've made it so easy for them to DJ to their kitchen, manage whatever. That yeah, they don't have they can just kind of live their life the way they want to live. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about those things. And then I was thinking about all these people who probably don't even have any of this stuff, who are bending down, hurting their backs and their hips and whatnot, just to pull out that
Right.
cast iron pan, and so when I'm visualizing like that, I went, oh, there's something here. I just feel it. I just feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What is it for you that you think gives you that mindset? Because you have an amazing positive mindset, but where did that come from for you? Did you just always have that? Did you learn it?
I don't know if I learned it. I think things that happen to you in the past, creates who you are today.
Mhm.
But I think just being a student and just kind of learning from other people, really.
Yeah.
I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and self-help books and things like that over the years, and I think that's helped frame my mind, because it's almost like it is like having a coach, which
Yeah.
is a great thing to have, by the way, is to have a coach that's on your side that will make you accountable. You hear about all those things, right? In self-help,
Mhm.
create your circle, find 5 people to be your board of directors, and you hear all those things. But I think the execution is the difference maker when you're actually doing it,
Yeah.
right? And again, putting whatever you're listening to into something real. um, you go, wow, I just told my partner what I plan on doing. I want her to make me accountable for it. I just did it,
Mhm.
like that kind of feeling. um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, as far as like having a positive mindset, I think I've always had that, because I didn't grow up with a lot of money. We came here when I was 2 from Hong Kong, and yeah, all we could afford were these plane tickets. That was it, and that's how we
Wow.
got here. And we stayed at our uncle's for 2 years, and I honestly didn't want. And I saw my parents, struggle, so to speak, and so I think for me, I just want to help. It goes back to helping. And
Yeah.
yeah, on average, I had 2 jobs in high school, 2 jobs in university. just kind of working. And I think through all this work experience, you kind of pick apart some of the things that may define you. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we're kind of have blinders on. We're just working and working. And my revelation honestly didn't happen until I had Bell's palsy. I woke up with half my face paralyzed when
Oh,
I was
wow.
25 years old in Toronto. And I was a workaholic. I got to the point where I was working so much I couldn't
Wow.
separate work from personal. And
Mhm.
so that was my wake up call. Um, and then I read this book called Tuesdays with Maury,
Oh,
self-help.
great book. Yeah.
Right. And I bought that book for many people. It's a really easy read. But one of the things that Maury said to Mitch Albom, the author, he was like, if you're on your deathbed one day, what would you think about? Right?
Mhm.
Would you think about the car that you bought, your certifications, or would you think about the memories? Would you think about your family? Right.
Yeah.
And that made me like go like, I got to get out of Toronto. like I'm gonna be that guy in my 40s with a heart attack but at this rate where I was going.
Wow.
And so happened that an old boss that moved over and brought a bunch of us along to help start up this company. And that's how it got me out here. I love the outdoors, all that. It felt like
Mhm.
like the right fit, the energy, I guess. The energy was there where it's like, oh, this is right
Yeah.
for me. Um, and so, yeah, I just embarked on that journey. Like my family, all my family was still in Toronto. And I said, I got to do this, so I did it before I turned 30. I was 29 at the time when I moved here. And I'm 48 now. So, it's been
Yeah.
an interesting, build up to kind of where we are today. But when I look back, I think it was the best decision ever, because it definitely changed my
Yeah.
trajectory with where things are at. And having a kid doesn't, having a child obviously changes that too. But
For
I think
sure.
there's these milestones that hit you. And I think there's certain junctions in life that wakes you up
Mhm.
from just having blinders. Sometimes we do have to get our heads out of the weeds and question things. Like, is this right for me? Is it about
Yeah.
the money, or is it about the experience? Like all those things. And so going
Mhm.
back to Tuesdays with Maury, yeah, I took that one to heart and made the move.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so how is life now for you? You mentioned earlier that you wanted to be able to take your daughter on all her field trips. Like, have you
Yeah.
been able to create that lifestyle that you were looking for?
Oh yeah, like my daughter Chelsea just turned 13 last month. But I mean, I haven't done a field trip with her in a while. But
Fair.
the times when she felt like, yeah, dad can come and dad is still cool kind of thing, I was definitely the mom amongst the moms, like
Yeah.
I was always there, because I want to see her grow up. I don't want to be contributing,
Mhm.
to that experience. And selfishly, yeah, I want to be on that deathbed one day and be able to think about those things as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if you had to do it over again, if you were starting this business from day one, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I think, mm, I think starting, I think knowing your business and knowing your tax laws and all those things, like,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because once you get into business and if you don't know that stuff very well, like you can have the government come after you in different ways. And we got slapped on the hand once with that.
Ouch.
Yeah, and it wasn't we were charging PST basically, and they said we shouldn't have charged it. And then we remitted all the PST, and they said, oh, nope, we get to keep that. I was like, well, I want to return it to my clients. And you go, well, you'll have to tell your clients to come to the government and collect that. And I'm like, that's just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just insane. Yeah, because they said it was a very gray area with our business because pull out shelves. Anyways, long story short, they said that you need to just charge GST, and that was a big learning lesson for me.
I bet.
I Yeah, and then the other thing, as far as starting out, um, I don't think there's too much to change with my approach, I guess. But I think if it was for anybody, it would be just to get out there, know your geography, know where your
Mhm.
clientele is, and you know, build out content so that you can develop trust as quick as you can. You know, um,
Yeah.
I think that's how we all transact these days is by doing our own due diligence before you know, we want to do business with someone. But yeah, no, let's just say I have no regrets with how things have
Good.
played out. Yeah.
Good. That's
Yeah.
great. And any last words of advice for us before we wrap up?
Um, I think, yeah, just having the internal purpose, the internal why, you just believing in yourself,
Yeah.
it's so true. Like, again, it's just, I don't know, I feel like I'm just telling this doing a self-help right now, but it is so true. Um,
Yeah.
like, if without that, you can have money rolling in, but it's money is just energy, it can come and
Mhm.
go at any point in time. Um,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, having that mindset to persevere and chip away, would be my thing. And yeah, asking for help.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I know I got a lot out of this conversation. I know the audience listening is going to get a lot out of this conversation. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.